1. Introduction: The power of seduction in society. Look around. In every ad, every scroll on your phone, every interaction, sex sells. Not because it's sacred, but because it's effective. Marketing, media, influencers, they've learned one fundamental truth: the fastest way to control a man is to arouse him. Seduction isn't just about sex, it's a psychological weapon. A glance, a pose, a tone of voice, all calibrated to trigger a primal reaction. And most men, they fall like dominoes. Because when your mind is ruled by desire, your actions aren't your own. But there's another path. A path rarely spoken of in modern times. A path of silence, clarity, and power. It's the path of the desexualized mind, a state where you're no longer a slave to visual curves or flirtatious tones. Where your energy, instead of being drained, is preserved. Focused. Directed. Men who walk this path are unshaken by the noise. Immune to the games. They move with calm purpose, not reactive lust. This isn't about becoming emotionless or celibate. It's about self-mastery. Because the man who has conquered his lust has conquered one of the most primal forces within. And that man, he can no longer be manipulated. 2. Desexualized mind and mental clarity. A desexualized mind is not a deadened mind. It's an awakened one. It doesn't mean suppressing desire, it means mastering it. Think of it like fire. In the wild, fire consumes and destroys. But when harnessed, it powers engines, forges steel, and brings warmth. Sexual energy is the same. Uncontrolled, it burns through your time, focus, and dignity. Controlled, it becomes fuel for greatness. A man who desexualizes his mind stops seeing women as fantasies to be chased and starts seeing them as people. Equals. Allies. Or distractions. But never objects. This mental shift alone cuts through 90% of the manipulation modern men face. When you're no longer mentally aroused by every smile or body, you're no longer distracted. You see clearly. You hear what's not being said. You spot the tactic under the charm. And while others are seduced by curves and words, you remain anchored. This mental clarity is power. It's the power to walk away from drama, to say no to temptation, and to keep your focus locked on your mission. It's the ability to sit in a room full of flirtation and stay composed, not cold, not rude, but immovable. This mindset is rare because it requires work. It demands presence. And most of all, it demands discipline. Psychologists today talk about cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort when actions don't align with values. The desexualized mind eliminates this friction. Because your values are clear, and your energy is aligned with them. And when your mind is that clear, nothing clouds your judgment, not beauty, not charm, not even lust itself. 3. Semen retention and self-control. Semen retention isn't just about abstinence. It's about direction. Every man has a reservoir of energy within him, biological, emotional, spiritual. But in today's hypersexualized world, that energy is wasted daily on short-term pleasure. Scattered. Depleted. Forgotten. But when a man practices retention, he reclaims that energy. He stops leaking power and starts building it. This isn't superstition, it's neuroscience. Semen retention has been linked to increased testosterone levels, improved concentration, sharper memory, and greater emotional stability. It activates the same neurochemistry involved in motivation and self-discipline. You're literally rewiring your brain for resilience. Think about it, what happens when you're constantly aroused, constantly stimulated, constantly chasing release? You become a slave to sensation. And slaves don't lead, they follow. Retention breaks that cycle. It trains the mind to delay gratification. To endure discomfort. To rise above impulse. And that shift changes everything. You'll notice women differently, not with need, but with discernment. You'll feel temptation, but it won't control you. You'll face stress, but you'll have reserves to stay composed. And most of all, you'll see how much of the world is designed to drain you. Ads. Apps. Clips. Images. All engineered to keep you weak. But when you retain, you resist. You build a fortress inside yourself. And every day you hold the line, you strengthen the warrior within. This is not about shame. It's about sovereignty. Because the man who controls his release controls his reality. 4. Societal conditioning and breaking free. From the moment a boy picks up a smartphone, society begins its assault. Music videos. Social media. Streaming platforms. Everywhere you look, sex is the bait. Women are posed, filtered, choreographed, not to be admired, but to provoke. To hook. To distract. And it works, because it's targeted at your biology. The dopamine rush, the illusion of connection, the promise of pleasure, it hijacks your brain. Rewires your focus. Makes you reactive. This isn't by accident. It's design. Weak men are easy to sell to. Easy to control. Easy to manipulate. Because when your mind is owned by impulse, you don't think, you consume. The desexualized man. He sees through the illusion. He understands that every image has intent. Every ad is a test. Every post is a seduction. And he chooses not to play. This is what it means to break free from conditioning, not to avoid beauty, but to detach from lust. To walk through the world without craving validation. To stop reacting to the programming that's been drilled into your mind since adolescence. Viktor Frankl once wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose." Society wants to erase that space. It wants you to respond instantly, to the DM, the image, the urge. But you can reclaim that space. With awareness. With discipline. With silence. Because when you do, you reclaim your life. Your energy returns. Your mind clears. And your focus becomes unshakable. You stop living on instinct, and start living on purpose. 5. Emotional control and resistance to temptation. A weak man follows his emotions. A strong man leads them. Temptation doesn't just come in physical form, it comes in words, glances, moments of vulnerability. It arrives disguised as opportunity. And if you lack control, it will own you. Stoicism teaches that emotions are not enemies, but indicators. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not a quote, it's a challenge. Every time you feel aroused, distracted, or emotionally triggered by someone's beauty or attention, you're facing a moment of power. Not to deny attraction, but to master it. Because men who are ruled by emotion fall for manipulation. They confuse desire for love. They interpret attention as affection. And they make decisions that sabotage their mission. Emotional control doesn't mean you become cold or numb. It means you stay rooted while others are swayed. You observe temptation, you feel it, but you don't act on it blindly. Modern psychology backs this up. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. It's the ability to recognize and regulate your emotional reactions. The stronger your EQ, the less you're shaken by external triggers. And here's the paradox, the more control you have over your emotions, the more attractive you become. Not because you're trying, but because control radiates strength. It's easy to follow impulse. It takes a warrior to resist it. So the next time temptation comes, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this serving my mission or sabotaging it? That 1 second of control could define your future. 6. Practical disciplines to build immunity. Discipline is not a theory, it's a practice. To desexualize the mind and master your emotions, you need structure. Not just willpower, but rituals. Habits that forge mental armor day after day. Here are the disciplines that build immunity. 1. Meditation. Sit in silence. No screens. No music. Just you and your thoughts. At first, your mind will scream. That's good, it means you're finally hearing it. With time, meditation will sharpen your awareness. You'll spot temptation before it sinks its teeth in. You'll see through seduction, not fall into it. 2. Physical training. A man who trains his body trains his will. Strength isn't about biceps, it's about self-respect. Every rep, every set, every drop of sweat, it's a rejection of weakness. You prove to yourself that comfort doesn't control you. 3. Cold showers. Step into discomfort willingly. When you train your nervous system to stay calm in cold, you train it to stay calm under pressure. And pressure is what seduction exploits. Cold exposure builds grit and sharpens presence. 4. Deep breathing. Inhale power. Exhale impulse. Breathwork resets your nervous system. When triggered by lust or emotion, a single deep breath can bring you back into control. It centers you in reality, not fantasy. 5. Reading and learning. Replace cheap dopamine with deep thinking. Read philosophy, psychology, history. Study the minds of men who built empires, because they weren't scrolling reels. They were mastering themselves. 6. Fasting. Go without. Not just food, but distractions. Fasting trains you to rule your urges. If you can dominate hunger, you can dominate lust. You learn that desires don't define you. You define you. These practices are not optional, they are the tools of transformation. Without them, you stay reactive. With them, you become untouchable. Start with 1. Stack them. Watch your mind evolve. Because every discipline is a strike against weakness, and a step toward mastery. 7. Spiritual aspects of sexual energy. Sexual energy is not just biological, it's spiritual. It's the life force that creates worlds. And the man who redirects it, refines it, and transmutes it doesn't lose it, he ascends with it. Ancient traditions understood this deeply. In Taoism, sexual energy, or Jing, was seen as a divine essence. Taoist masters practiced internal alchemy, redirecting this force upward through the body, fueling vitality, wisdom, and inner peace. In Tantra, sexuality isn't something to be suppressed, but elevated. Controlled desire becomes a gateway to higher consciousness. The goal is not climax, but transformation. You move from physical pleasure to spiritual presence. And Stoicism? It aligns perfectly. The Stoics taught sophrosyne, self-restraint as a form of virtue. Not as repression, but as redirection. The energy not spent on lust becomes fuel for purpose, insight, and deep inner strength. Modern science mirrors this ancient wisdom. When sexual energy is conserved, the brain adapts, boosting neuroplasticity, clarity, and emotional resilience. The very energy that drains most men becomes the force that empowers the few. But here's the truth, transmutation only works when it's intentional. It's not just about saying no, it's about saying yes to a higher path. To redirect the same drive that once led to temptation toward your craft, your goals, your spiritual insight. Every time you withhold release, you build pressure. Most men let it explode. The wise man lets it rise, until it fuels something greater. That's why the desexualized mind is not empty, it's full. Full of vision. Full of fire. Full of spiritual intensity. Because once you realize your sexual energy is sacred, you stop wasting it, and start becoming unstoppable. 8. Attraction as a byproduct of discipline. Here's the irony, the moment you stop chasing women is the moment they start chasing you. But it's not magic, it's energy. When a man is disciplined, present, and focused on his purpose, it radiates. Confidence becomes your default. Not the loud, boastful kind, but the calm, grounded certainty that you know who you are and where you're going. And that is rare. Most men orbit around attraction. They adjust their behavior, their style, even their speech to gain approval. But the man who desexualizes his mind doesn't orbit, he builds gravity. Women feel that. They sense the difference between a man who wants something from them, and a man who needs nothing from them. Your attention, your routines, your silence, all of it creates mystery. And mystery is power. Not because you're manipulating, but because you're no longer predictable. And here's the deeper truth: when you're no longer ruled by desire, you stop picking partners based on lust. You choose based on values. Alignment. Depth. The seductions that used to pull you in, suddenly feel weak. You no longer fall for the surface. You look for soul. And while others waste time in drama, emotional chaos, and hookup cycles, you're building. You're growing. You're focused. The man who doesn't chase, becomes the one worth chasing. Because true masculinity isn't desperate. It's directed. And in the end, the most magnetic force isn't game or charm, it's discipline. It's presence. It's purpose. And that is what makes a man unforgettable. 9. Conclusion: the invulnerable man. The world doesn't need more men chasing pleasure. It needs men who command presence. Men who can walk into temptation and not flinch. Men who are grounded, focused, unshakable. That man is invulnerable. Not because he feels nothing, but because he controls what he feels. He's not swayed by lust, not manipulated by beauty, not seduced by the noise. He's immune because he has trained his mind to see through illusion. He retains his energy, not out of fear, but out of purpose. He disciplines his body, not for vanity, but for mastery. He tames his emotions, not to impress, but to lead. And he chooses his partners, not based on impulse, but on vision. This man is rare. Because his strength doesn't come from rage or ego, but from silence. From stillness. From spiritual fire. And here's the final challenge: become him. Start today. Pick one discipline. Meditation. Cold showers. Fasting. Training. Just one. Then stack it. Build the fortress within brick by brick until you no longer react, you respond. Until you no longer seek approval, you lead with presence. Until you no longer chase pleasure, you build purpose. And when that shift happens, you won't need to avoid manipulation, it won't even register. Because you'll be too focused. Too grounded. Too powerful to be moved by anything but your mission. Comment below, which of these disciplines are you going to start with? What have you struggled with the most, impulse, emotion, or focus? Like this video if it gave you clarity, and subscribe if you're ready to build the mind of a warrior. This is your path. This is your test. This is your transformation. Welcome to the elite. Welcome to the desexualized mind.